Okay, we're back again for block number 2 of month number 1. It will be the Brolga pattern, and it is on page 17 of your book. So follow along, and we'll show you how it's done. Okay, we're ready to make our second block of month 1. I already made one. Okay, so we are making this Brolga pattern on page 17. And this is what mine looks like. You can put different fabrics from your kit, but I chose to do a dark in the center and then a light and then dark, light, dark, light, dark. So the high contrast makes all our work visible. So that translates in the book, this where it tells you yellow with orange spots, that's this centerpiece right here, and it works its way out. They're referring to this as the green tone on tone, the pale blue print, the turquoise batik, the pink batik, the mustard print, and the blue print. So for us, this centerpiece is the 4x4. So on the one that we are going to make, this is the piece that I have left. I had the, on this one, I put this 4x4 print. So this is the one that I have left, and that's going to be my pattern A. This is on freezer paper. So I will iron this onto the freezer paper and make sure I've got a 1/4 inch all the way around before I press it down. So for these inner spikes right here, I need a contrast to this. So I cut these darker prints to go here. I cut the lighter blue prints to go out here. And those two are going to be stitched on this pattern piece. My band, which is my pattern I, is going to be on this piece right here. And this will be ironed again to the wrong side. And then my next spikes, this big spike right here is going to go right next to this band. On this block, my band is dark, so I want this to be my light and this to be my dark, and then this piece out here is going to be light. Okay, so I've already cut these pieces, and I will show you exactly what I did, and we'll do it again with these. So it tells you in the book that this green tone on tone, which is my little inner spikes right here, we need to cut 7 wedges of the green fabric. So the green is my 3 by 11.5 inch piece. So you just need to divide that 11.5 by 7 to get how big to cut each wedge. So 11.5 divided by 7 is 1.64. So a little over 1.5 inches is what you need to cut each of these inner spikes. So the outer spikes, which they're referring to as the pale blue print, you have 2 outside pieces, and then the rest are inside pieces. So your outside pieces, you don't have to cut the full width because the piece is not the full width. So what we're going to do is just measure the widest part of it, and that's about 1/2 inch. Add 1 inch to it, so we've got plenty of seam allowance, and that's what these 2 pieces are right here. So from our piece that is, let me see, which one are we on? 3 by 16. So from our 16-inch piece, we're going to cut 1 inch and 1 inch. So now we've got 14 inches left, and we will cut, let me see, 6 pieces. So just take your 14 and divide by 6. And for me, I cut each of these pieces 2 inches. So we've got enough to do all of this and keep your end pieces separate. Okay, and then the band piece, again, is going to be ironed to the wrong side. Let's jump to the outer piece. This big piece out here is going to be light for us in this next one. Iron to the wrong side. Don't forget that 1/4 inch all the way around. Don't line it up like right in the corner, or you're not going to have anything to stitch down and you'll be mad. Okay, so these pieces right here, just clear the deck here. So these two pieces are my larger wedges. So in this, they are the pink and the mustard. So I've got one that is 14 inches and the other is 20 inches. So the 14-inch one is going to be my inner pieces, and that is right here, pink batik. So we need 7 wedges. So it is 14 divided by 7. So we're going to cut each of these inner wedge pieces. For us, it's this pale one. We're going to cut each of those 2 inches. 14 divided by 7 is 2. And for the outer one, we're going to measure the widest part of these 2 end pieces. They are 1 inch. We're going to add 1 inch to that and cut these 2 inches. So that's going to leave us, let's see, it was 20 inches right here. So if we cut 2 inches off of this end and 2 inches for that end, we've got 16 inches left. So we'll take our 16 inches that we have left and divide it by the 6 pieces that we need to cut. So 16 divided by 6 is a little more than 2.5. So let's go ahead and get that done now. So our inner wedges, which is the pink, we just need to cut 7. So 14 divided by 7 is 2. So we're just going to cut each of these 2 inches. So what I'm going to do is cut 1 off. Now I've got 6 left, which is a nice even number. And then I can cut 2 at a time. This is a little leftover just in case we need it. Okay. And then this one, that measures 1 inch, so I need 2 pieces that are 2 inches. And then I need 6 for the interior. So this is measuring 16 left. So 16 divided by 6 is a little more than 2.5. So I can just fold it in half. Just measure 2.5 all the way across. So that's 2, 4, 6. Okay, and now we're ready to sew. Okay, so the first thing we're going to sew on this next block is this inner arc, and I've got my blue pieces with my little half units that go on the ends, and I've just stacked them in the opposite direction so I don't accidentally try and use them for something else. And then these are my dark blue pieces that are going to be going out here. So my piece number 1 is going to go right on the end. Always, your very first piece, you want to have the right side facing up. When you place it down, make sure that you've got at least a 1/2 inch on the ends and all the way around. Now, so this doesn't move around, I'm just going to use a little bit of glue here. You don't need a lot, but that'll keep it from moving around. Okay, and this piece, whoops, this piece is our next piece that's going to cover piece number 2. So our sew line is right here. So if I fold back on that sew line so that I can see piece number 2, I can see exactly where that needs to go. And give it a little crease, and that'll kind of give me a line to line up against. And you want to go a 1/4 inch beyond it. You have plenty of fabric. And this one I'm just going to pin in place. Over here. Make sure our machine is still set on about a 1.5 stitch length. Start at least a 1/4 inch off the edge. So right on the line. And at least a 1/4 inch off the edge. Okay, so we're going to fold back our piece right on our stitching line. Give this a trim. We don't need all that bulk in that seam. And then we'll press. Okay. And then piece number 3 is going to be a light piece. I'm going to fold back here and trim. And line our light piece right up here. If you want to pin in place, you certainly can. Again, starting off the edge. Stitching off the edge. Press. Our next piece is going to be piece number 4. So we're going to fold back on that line between 3 and 4. Our next piece is dark. Press. And our next sew line is right here. So we'll fold that back. and so on. We're going to continue exactly like that, just trading up and down all the way down this piece, and we'll meet you for the next piece. Okay, so there seems to be the tiniest bit of confusion about where to trim. So I sewed this piece on and I pressed it out. So this is covering this number 6. And the last place I sewed was between 5 and 6. So if you fold that back on that sew line, you're not trimming in the right place. You need to go to the next sew line and fold back and trim. Otherwise, you'll cut off the piece that you just sewed on. Okay, and then we're going to line up our next light piece, which goes right here. Sometimes with these triangles, it's a little wonky wondering where to put it. So if you line this up over here, you may or may not have enough to cover. So to find out if you've got enough to cover, pull this piece back. And if your new piece covers all of this piece, you've got enough. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next pieced arc, which is this larger one out here. Our piece number 1 is going to be one of these little half pieces right here, and then we'll go on to the whole pieces and all the way down. So these are my 2 little half pieces that are going crosswise. So let me put that one on the bottom. So I'm going to start again at piece number 1. This piece does have a right side and a wrong side, unlike our last one that was a solid. So we want to make sure that we've got 1/4 of an inch all the way around. And when I say all the way around, I'm talking at this point too. You need 1/4 of an inch past and 1/4 of an inch past. So I'm going to use my glue again. And if you find it's not sticking like mine isn't, just give it a little press and it'll adhere quite a bit better. So the first line that we're going to sew is between piece 1 and piece 2. So we're going to fold back along that sew line and trim our 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then again, right sides together. If you want to make sure you've got it in the right place, you can fold this back and make sure that you've got 1/4 of an inch of this fabric all the way around this piece number 2. This one seems to want to wiggle around a little, so I'm going to put a pin in it. Press that back. Okay, just so we can stay straight and not be confused, we've already sewn piece 1 to piece 2, so this light is our piece 2. The next line we want to sew is between 2 and 3, so that's the line we're going to fold back on. trim. And we're ready for a dark piece. Okay, for these bigger pieces, might be a good idea to check and make sure you've got plenty all the way around. We do. Also, I'm not sure if I mentioned in a previous video, it's a very helpful idea to have an open-toed foot on your machine so you can see where you're sewing. If you have a foot that has a center line on it, that's pretty helpful. The open toe is best though, so if you have one, use it. Okay, so we sewed on this line, so our next sew line is this one, and that's the one we want to fold back on. Just double check here. Okay. Okay, I just made a boo-boo. I pinned this incorrectly. I'm going to be sewing right here. I don't need the head of that pin right there. It's going to get caught up in my feed dogs and cause a problem. Okay, we sewed on this line. Our next sew line is this line. That's where we're going to fold back. Let me just double check. Okay, looks like I'm good. Okay, I'm pretty sure everybody's got the rhythm of this now. The sew, iron, trim, repeat. Okay, so we will get this one finished up and then we'll meet you back here and put the block together. Okay, so we've got the small inner arc all finished and we've got the larger outer arc all finished. Our next step is to mark all of our points so that we know right where to stitch when we're stitching. So I'm going to just go along and at each one of these little intersections, I'm just going to make a little line. If you do this before you tear your paper off, it's easier to see. Okay, then I'm going to take my ruler that has a 1/4 inch line that I can easily see. And I'm just lining up my 1/4 inch line with the edge of the paper and making a line out here. And just do this every 1/2 inch or so. And then I'm going to trim dot to dot. If you're feeling adventurous, you can use your rotary cutter. I like to use scissors because a rotary cutter can slip away from me pretty quickly. And I only do this on the curved parts. On the straightaways out here and out here, I can just put my ruler down and trim those. And then we'll go a 1/4 inch away from the edge of the paper here. And a 1/4 inch away right here. And then we can take off the paper. Okay, so now we have all of our pieces compiled. This is our pattern A, and it's going to go right there with that one. And then our pattern I is going to go out here. And then we'll have this spiky piece. And then our pattern P, which is our outside corner. So right now I'm going to go along and mark my 1/4 inch seam allowance on all of these and cut out on that seam allowance here, here, and here, and then I'll meet you back here and we'll put them together. Okay, before we sew our pieces all together, I wanted to point out I had somebody come in and she had a little oops, but we have extra fabric, so no worries if you do. She cut out her pattern pieces on her freezer paper. You cut out on the line on your freezer paper, but then you have to add a 1/4 inch all the way around when you cut your fabric. So don't forget to do that or your block isn't going to be the right size. Okay, so we take the freezer paper off. Don't throw these away. You can use them another time. They iron on multiple times. So this is going to be the inner portion of our block. So what I've done is I've folded it in half, each piece, and I've marked the center. and I'm going to put those together. And this is going to go together just like that first block that we did. So this needs to come around and the sides need to be nice and even, and I'm going to pin down here so it holds everything together. And the same thing on this other side. Okay. And then we're going to pin between the end and the center. And I'm going to sew with this part up so that I can see exactly where to stitch. We made our red marks at the intersections again. You want to make sure the edges of your fabric are right together, because your 1/4 inch lines are where your fabric is going to fit together. And if you notice with the pins, I'm taking a very small bite. I'm not taking a great big piece. See how tiny I'm taking with that pin? It's going to help everything stay right where it's supposed to stay, and right where I'm going to be stitching is where that pin is. Okay, and we'll just go to our sewing machine. 1/4 inch seam allowance. If you are a fast sewer, now is the time to slow down. Okay, I'll get this across. And what I'm looking for here is to make sure that I can see all of these points, and I can. So the next piece to sew on is going to be this piece right here. And again, we're going to fold this one in half. Okay, so we went to the trouble to mark out here where our places were, and when I hit it with the iron, I touched it to these 2 points. So I'm gonna have to go in and fix that so I can see where I'm sewing. So if you're using a heat erasable marker, beware. So that's gonna go right there. And we'll use exactly the same method as before. Okay, so I'm going to finish pinning this piece, then I'm going to pin this piece, and we will be right back. Okay, so we've got everything pinned here and here. We're going to sew from where our red marks are so we know exactly where to stitch. And if you'll notice on this one, it's kind of ruffly up under here. That's because this piece down in here is bigger. So as we're stitching along, we want to make sure that this doesn't migrate its way up into here. And the same with this piece. This piece out here, we don't want it to get stuck up in there. So we're going to make sure that on the other side it's nice and smooth. Get one more pin in here. Okay. Again, we're going to go real slow. Not the time to be quick. How we did. That looks pretty good. Okay, and then we'll do this one. So I thought it pulled up under there, and it did. So see that little pleat that I have right there? I'm just going to take that out from here to about here. And that's why I was kind of looking at it before I pressed it so that I didn't lose my marks. Okay, so I've got this taken out, and it was just this little piece had gotten pleated up in there, and it was up underneath. And as many times as I looked, I still didn't see it. So I'm just going to stitch again from here to here. see. That looks much better. Okay, let's give this a press. When I'm pressing, I'm not pressing down here because I don't want to lose those red marks. So we've got one more seam to sew, and this block will be done. Okay, so this one to this one is the last one, and I'm going to do the same fold and find my center method as I did before, and then sew this in here, and we will be ready to be completed. Okay, last time, here we go, and our block will be all finished. So this time I'm going to be a little more careful as to what's going on up underneath here. Oops, one of the pins came out. Let's see if I can do it without. Press. There we go. That wasn't too hard.